Hey everybody, back again, and today we're going to be taking a section of this machete that we've got over here. I'll show you in a sec, and we're going to be doing some stock removal to get it to our rough profile. Then we're going to forge in our bevels, forge in our tang pinholes, heat treat it, all that jazz. But without further ado, let's start chopping this thing up so we can get it in the fire and have some fun. We separated our machete blade from our handle. We don't need the handle anymore, so we can go ahead and we can start marking a profile and chopping up this into our rough profile for our kitchen knife. Okay, we've got our rough profile drawn out, well, cut out. Now I'm going to go head over to the forge and start shaping our blade. First, I'm going to start shaping our handle. Getting close to the shape I want, at least on the front half of this handle. So now on the other end, we're just gonna get rid of those sharp corners first. Kind of round that out a little bit. Biggest thing when you're doing this is just making sure your steel doesn't fold up on itself and close. It will try to bend and fold a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and start taking a little bit of that hump out of the back here. Kind of round that up a little bit. We could have done this with the grinder when we were cutting it out, but I prefer to forge my work if I can. I'm just trying to kind of create a gradual taper up from the handle and back down into the blade. And we're going to do the same thing all the way up to our tip here. Make sure everything's nice and smooth. And this will give us a gradual lean forward, but that's okay. That'll get fixed when we bevel the blade. So a little more tune-up work right here on that. That's fine. Now we can start our bevel. And there is part of this that still has that bevel from when it was a machete. But we want a nice deep bevel on this blade that goes up all the way to the top. So I'm going to draw that bevel from this short little thing up to about the medial section of the knife all the way across. And it is a pretty cold day out here, so my anvil is just sucking the heat right out of my work. I could have preheated my anvil, but who wants to make life that easy? Start to punch our knife handle holes, or our pin holes rather. And then at a lower heat, once it's marked, we can take it over to the French hole and we can shear that right through. There's our little plug. back over to the Frenchel hole. Then we're going to go back in the fire and heat it up, and we're going to flatten where we have those countersunk areas of our hole back out. A little bit of a smaller hole than what we punched, which will be the perfect size for my pinholes. Now we're just going to take a second and start tapping everything straight. Okay, so we've gotten back from the grinder and our blade is nice and shined back up. All I've got to do is put an edge on this after heat treat and get the handle on it. So we're going to do the heat treatment real quick. I'm just going to show you guys the quench because it's boring to watch a blade temper in an oven or in oil for 2 hours, 3 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get this heat treated. I'll get the edge put on here, get it polished up, and then we'll be done with the metalworking portion, and then I can go inside and I can start getting the epoxy on here. So we're back from the grinder yet again. We've got our edge put on there, as you can see. Got a nice fine, tiny little edge bevel added to that shape. We've got that classic kitchen knife kind of shoe-shaped blade. Little stout, little short, but I'm making this one for a birthday present for a family member, and she requested a shorter blade, so shorter blade. Her husband's got rather large hands and she's got small hands, so I went with like a middle ground sized handle. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and start the epoxy, get it all mixed up, get it made, and then I will be back once I start cutting and getting the epoxy shaped to the handle. It's now the next day and I've gone ahead and gotten my resin handle scales cut to shape so that we can glue these on to our blade. I have a little mold that I cast my resin in that gives me these flat handle scales shapes. From there I just go to the bandsaw and I cut out my outline and then I drill my holes for my pinholes. So super simple, super easy to make these handles, and these polymer resin epoxy handles last a lifetime because they're water resistant, they're waterproof essentially. And since resin is waterproof, it's really awesome for kitchen knives, it's really awesome for all kinds of knives. If you get the right resin that's self-degassing resin, then you'll actually end up with some really solid handle scales that you can put through all kinds of torture. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna epoxy this together with the pins in place, and then I will be back to you guys once the epoxy hardens in about an hour and a half, and we will sand and finish the handle on this. So we've got our clamps on there, and we've got the glue up started. Now we just gotta wait for that epoxy to cure, and we can go ahead and sand the uneven spots down, kind of clean up those edges, round up that handle a little bit, and then the handle will be all set for this beautiful blade. So we're back from our glue up. Everything is glued together. Our pins are in place. I'm just gonna go ahead and hop over to the grinder real quick and get this all cleaned up, get the profile trued up so there's no unevenness in our scales. As you can see, there is a little unevenness from when I cut it, but I leave it that way because it's just easier to clean it up once it's all glued together. I get a rough profile cut, so that way I'm close enough to where I just have to do minimal cleanup work afterwards. So I'll be right back once this is cleaned up and I'll show you guys what we're working with. So we are now back from the grinder with our finished knife. The knife handle's all finished up. Looks real sassy, real pretty. I love the way the color runs through there. We've got that classic early American shoe-shaped kitchen knife, kind of the front horn of a shoe almost, kind of swoops back up on itself, putting the point of that knife right in line with the center of the handle. These machete blades make awesome little knives. They hold their edge pretty good because they're designed for, you know, heavy use machetes, and I always heat treat them to where they fall on the harder side of things. So they're a little stiffer, they're a little bit less easy to flex, but they also hold their edge longer, so you don't have to sharpen them in between each and every single use. But this will be going off to my family member very shortly for a birthday present, and I'm hoping she digs on it. I asked her favorite color, she said blue, so we threw these blue handle scales on here and gave it this nice big broad blade because she wanted something shorter but still big enough to do the job. Let's just get you guys a couple close-ups before the end of the video. That does it for today's video. If you guys like what you've seen, you know what to do. Do the thing right there. And until next time, God bless. Stay sharp out there. If you're looking for a custom sharp object, you know where to look. Check out the Etsy store at the end of the video.